The look on that HOA witch's face when the sheriff told her I wasn't trespassing, I was her landlord. Man, it was worth every single penny of the $2.3 million inheritance I'd used to secretly buy her entire neighborhood right out from under her. Yeah, that moment. I'd relive it every morning for the rest of my life, coffee in hand, if I could. You know what I mean? There I was, mug still steaming, watching 3 patrol cars come tearing up my gravel drive at 7 a.m., sirens howling like it was a raid. Vivian Hartwell in her designer yoga pants, standing on her precious 80-grand lawn, waving her arms like I'd committed some federal crime. "Officers, arrest that man. He's squatting, threatening our community," she shrieked, as if I was some wild animal let loose in her suburban zoo. But the only thing she didn't know, and man, this still makes me grin, was that her shiny McMansion, her friends' houses, hell, the whole 847-acre subdivision she ruled like a queen, was built on land I owned outright. She wasn't just harassing some harmless hermit. She was picking a fight with her actual landlord. Let me back up a sec. Name's Garrett Stone. 15 years ago, I was just a union electrician in Akron, Ohio, living the blue-collar dream, thinking retirement would mean fishing for bass on Lake Erie, nothing fancy. Then my world flipped upside down. My wife, Sarah, got cancer, the bad kind, pancreatic. For over 2 years, I watched her fade away while insurance companies jerked us around, caring more about the bottom line than her comfort. When she passed, the house felt like a tomb, full of her scent and memories I couldn't handle. So, I loaded up, pointed the truck west, and moved into my Uncle Tobias's cabin in the Colorado Rockies. 12 acres of hand-built paradise, solar panels, a garden that actually fed you, and a peace Ohio never offered. For the first year, it was heaven. My neighbors were all real people, retired teachers, Army vets, folks who'd built a life out here because they valued space and silence more than HOA newsletters. We had an unspoken rule: mind your business, treat each other right, maybe swap some elk jerky during hunting season, but never try to run the mountain like a kingdom. That all changed in 2022. Suddenly, construction crews were gutting the woods, replacing century-old pines with sprawling McMansions named Grandview and Elk Ridge. The people who moved and rolled up in convoys of German SUVs talked a lot about community standards, and within months formed an HOA with rules that would make a dictator blush. No clotheslines, no veggie gardens visible from the street, no trucks over 10 years old, God forbid. Leading this HOA junta was Vivian Hartwell, 45, big pharma exec, vanity plates, the whole deal. She'd show up at my door with a clipboard and a fake smile, talking about my cabin, damaging community values, and trying to hand me a 47-page legal document about solar panel color codes. I told her straight, "Ma'am, I was here before your rules. My cabin, my land. That's the way it is." Her face cracked, but she just sneered, "We'll see about that." I figured that was the end of it, just a run-in with a busybody. Man, was I wrong. Within 2 weeks, the county inspector, Rodriguez, shows up with a folder thicker than a phone book. "Sorry, Mr. Stone, I have to check for code violations." He looked more nervous than a turkey before Thanksgiving, crawling under my porch, poking around my wiring, measuring everything. What he found: Uncle Tobias's work was flawless. Everything's perfect. Some of the best construction I've seen. Vivian's face turned redder than a fire truck when she heard. But she was just getting started. In the next month, I saw a parade of officials, fire inspectors, health department, environmental compliance. Every time, they left scratching their heads, finding nothing to write me up for. It became clear, Vivian wasn't just entitled, she was organized, and she was using every connection she had to make my life hell. The next curveball? A surveyor hired by the HOA. He claimed my driveway encroached 18 feet on common property. They wanted $18,000 in back fees for a drive I'd used for 15 years. I dug into my uncle's old records. Original survey from '87, signed and notarized, showed my property line ran 40 feet past what I'd thought, which meant Vivian's prized rose garden was, legally, all mine. That night, as I sat in the glow of my wood stove, flipping through Tobias's meticulously organized files, I realized something. My uncle had spent 30 years preparing for war against exactly this kind of suburban invasion. He'd bought up land around him, using shell companies, trusts, and legal chess moves that'd make a developer sweat. The next day, I brought the documents to old Gerald Blackwood, my uncle's lawyer, who just grinned as he pieced it all together. Your uncle was a genius, Garrett. They tried this with him 30 years ago. You've got all the ammo you need. Still, Vivian kept escalating. She started a whisper campaign, telling neighbors I was dangerous, maybe even stockpiling weapons. Circulated a petition, filed complaints about my compound. Her posts online painted me as some kind of militia nut, not a widower building birdhouses for therapy. Then my internet was cut off. The power company got anonymous calls about dangerous solar installations, and health inspectors showed up to test my well water. It was a circus, and every clown in it was getting their cues from her. So I did what anyone with a stubborn streak and a cousin in private investigation would do. I started digging into Vivian's past. Turns out she had a long history of this stuff. Lawsuits, harassment, running people out of their homes in Connecticut, even a restraining order from a widow whose only crime was hanging laundry in her own yard. She wasn't new at this, she was a pro. That's when I realized, if I was going to win, I couldn't just play defense. Uncle Tobias's files held more than land deeds. He'd left me the mineral rights, water rights, and the kind of lease agreements that let me yank the ground right out from under the whole HOA if they crossed the line. There were even clauses, handwritten, notarized, filed with the county, stating that harassment of the original property owner meant immediate lease termination. You harass the hermit, you lose the house. Simple as that. The final straw came when Vivian tried to plant evidence. Security cameras I'd hidden in the pines caught her teenage son's spray painting terrorist on my mailbox. Her Range Rover parked right there, engine running. Another camera picked up her sneaking around my yard, directing landscaping crews to dump clippings on my drive, trying to set me up for code violations. But the piece de resistance? A midnight video of Vivian herself, creeping through the trees with 2 hired goons, trying to plant drug paraphernalia near my workshop. The next morning, I called Gerald. We've got her, right? He just laughed. One more move, Garrett. She's about to bury herself. Within days, Vivian pulled political strings, convincing the county commissioner to call an emergency zoning hearing, claiming I was running a dangerous compound. She called the news, whipped up the neighbors, painted me as a threat to everything they loved. But what she didn't know was that my war counsel, Gerald, Betty from next door, Marcus the surveyor, and Sarah Morgan, a journalist with a nose for corruption, had already lined up all the evidence. The hearing was a circus, standing room only, TV crews jostling for a shot. Vivian strutted up to the podium, waving photos, making wild accusations. Gerald stepped up, box in hand, and just dropped the bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, every house in Mountain Vista Estates is sitting on ground leased from my client. The developer never told you, but you've been paying rent to Mr. Stone's trust fund this whole time. And these lease agreements, well, harassment of the landlord means you're out. Today, silence. Then chaos. Cameras flashed. Vivian turned pale as a ghost, screaming, "It's a conspiracy," as Gerald played video after video of her orchestrating the harassment. Security escorted her out, her neighbors staring like they'd woken from a bad dream. The commissioner tried to save face, but Sarah's reporting exposed campaign donations from the developer, and suddenly, the political tide shifted. Within 48 hours, Vivian was slapped with charges: harassment, vandalism, false reporting, attempted felony frame-up. Her company dropped her, her husband filed for divorce, her Range Rover vanished, her rose garden dug up as evidence. Most of the neighbors accepted my offer of rent forgiveness. I wasn't out for blood, just justice. The toxic HOA dissolved overnight, replaced by a real neighborhood association led by Betty, who made sure the focus was on community, not control. We built a community garden where Vivian's roses used to be, let the kids play outside again, and helped each other with repairs instead of lawsuits. Sarah's expose on ground lease scams won awards, helped other communities fight back against corporate bullies, and the Tobias Foundation I started now funds legal help for families threatened by the same kind of developer warfare. On the first Uncle Tobias Day, a mountain barbecue, bluegrass, property law workshops for anybody who wanted to learn, I finally understood what all that paranoia had been for. It wasn't fear, it was foresight. Protecting the mountain, the people, the way of life. Standing on my porch at sunset, barbecue smoke and pine in the air, I watched the kids racing where Vivian's garden once stood and thought, this, this is real wealth. Not Range Rovers or rose gardens, but a neighborhood where people look out for each other, where no one can be bullied off their land just because they don't fit someone's aesthetic. So tell me, what's your worst HOA nightmare? Drop it in the comments below. Do you think I was right to play the nuclear option, or did I go too far? What's justice and what's revenge when it comes to standing up for your home? If you've learned something today, hit subscribe, because as Uncle Tobias taught me, the only thing stronger than money is neighbors who stand together and know their rights. Some mountains don't move, no matter how hard you push. And as long as I'm here, neither will this one.